Have you ever felt like some companies are practically mind readers? I mean, they know what you want, sometimes even before you do. Well, it's not magic, it's actually a science, the science of statistical investigation. And today, we're going to open up the Data Detectives Toolkit and show you exactly how it's all done.
No, really, think about it. How do they pull it off? How does a company seem to just know the perfect new product to launch or the exact service you need? It's almost like they're one step ahead of your own thoughts. Well, the secret isn't some complicated magic trick. It's something way more powerful: data. Every single smart decision, every big product launch, every successful strategy, it's all built on a solid foundation of facts. It's the raw evidence that shows them the way.
So, how does a data detective actually crack the case? Well, we're going to follow a 5-step process. First, we'll define the mission. Then, we'll gather the clues, launch the investigation, perfect the interrogation, and finally run the verification to make sure all our findings are rock solid.
All right, let's dive in. Every investigation has to start somewhere, right? For us data detectives, that's the mission. Before we even think about looking for clues, we have to know exactly what mystery we're trying to solve. What's the point of it all?
So, when we say data, what are we even talking about? At its heart, it's just facts. Facts expressed as numbers. Think of it like this. It's the raw, unfiltered evidence that you need to make any smart decision. Without it, you're not making a calculated move. You're just guessing in the dark. Now, any good detective will tell you that clues can come from anywhere. Sometimes you find fresh evidence right there at the scene, and other times you gotta dig through old records. In the world of data, this is a really, really important distinction. And that brings us to the two main types: primary versus secondary data. Think of primary data as fresh intel. You're collecting it yourself for this specific mission, like a customer survey you designed. You control the whole thing. Secondary data, on the other hand, is like digging through old case files. It's info that someone else already collected for a totally different reason, like census reports or maybe last year's sales figures. So what happens when those old case files, that secondary data, just isn't cutting it? Well, you've got to get out there and conduct your own investigation. It's time to gather your own intel. Now, one of the most classic tools in any detective's kit is the questionnaire, but it's all about how you use it. You could do personal interviews, go face-to-face to get those really rich, detailed answers. Or if you need to cover a huge area, you might use mail questionnaires, though you're kind of counting on people to actually read them and send them back. And then there's the telephone. It's cheaper, it's faster, but the interviews have to be short, and of course, you can only reach people who have a phone. Okay, now we're getting to the real heart of it, the interrogation. A detective is only as good as the questions they ask, right? And it's the exact same thing for a data investigator. This is where the magic happens. You see, crafting good questions is a total art form. You gotta strike just the right balance. First, keep it short, because let's be real, nobody wants to fill out a 100-question survey. The questions themselves, they have to be super simple and crystal clear, no room for confusion. You also probably want to avoid really sensitive topics that might make people clam up. The whole thing should have a logical flow that feels natural. And it's always a good idea to start with a cover letter that explains why you're asking and promises to keep their answers safe. It's all about building trust. And hey, this isn't just some textbook theory. Huge institutions like IGNOU, the People's University, they live and breathe these principles for their research. They design these questionnaires to get feedback and data from a massive student body. This is what it looks like in the real world, and it shows you just how crucial good design is for any big investigation. But wait, before you launch your main investigation, there is one step you absolutely cannot skip. It's called the pilot survey. Seriously, think of it as a dress rehearsal. You test your questions out on a small group first, and that helps you find all the awkward questions or confusing parts before you spend all that time and money on the real thing. It's your last chance to get it right. So the clues are in. The interrogation is done. Case closed, right? Whoa, not so fast. Now comes the final, critical stage: verification. This is where you go back and double-check every single piece of evidence to make sure it's actually reliable. This is all about quality control. It's like a 4-point inspection for your evidence. First up, completeness. Did people actually answer all the questions? Next, consistency. Do any of the answers contradict each other? Then, accuracy. Is this info even correct? And finally, homogeneity. That's a fancy word, but it just means, did everybody understand your questions the same way? This final editing process is what turns a pile of raw info into solid, reliable proof. You know, when you boil everything we've talked about down to its core, it's this one simple idea. The success of any statistical investigation depends completely on having accurate and reliable data to begin with. If your clues are bad, even the most brilliant analysis in the world is totally worthless. So there you have it. You've got the Data Detective's Toolkit. You know the whole process from defining the mission to verifying the clues. The only question left is, what mystery are you going to solve?